I want to start. Do you know how I'm feeling?
Are you feeling agentic?
It's hard not to feel agentic. Majestic, maybe.
Majestic.
No, I'm feeling stellar.
Oh.
See what I did there?
I see what you did there. Very good.
You
Stellar
know what?
Cyber.
You know who else is stellar? Lisa from Stellar Cyber.
There
How are you,
go.
Lisa?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of
lovely.
So good
course.
to have you. So good to have you. We're gonna have a fun chat here. Lots of stuff going on here. RSAC conference. You've had a full day now of talking to customers and prospects and peers and colleagues and lots of fun things I'm sure you've heard. So we're going to touch on some of those things. Maybe a brief word about your role at Stellar and maybe the elevator pitch for Stellar Cyber, so folks have that context as we have this conversation.
Totally. I'm Lisa. I'm the corporate marketing and communications manager here at Stellar Cyber. We are a security operations platform that works mainly with managed security services providers and mid-level enterprises to streamline their security operations and provide them with AI-driven security solution.
Very good. So I made the joke about his feeling agentic. You go down in the expo area, everything is agentic.
Totally.
And you're right there. I know
Yes.
you guys do this, but what's the buzz around?
Well, I've been telling people, you don't get on the floor at this conference this year if you're not saying AI. If you don't have it somewhere in your branding,
That's a password?
you're not getting a booth space. That's just the way the game is. And it was true last year. It's definitely true this year.
True.
But we've been saying Human-Augmented Autonomous SOC at RSA for a couple years now. So this is not something we adopted just to be trendy or just to make sure that we're on the same playing field as everyone else. It's kind of the logic that's been driving our mission since the beginning. So you might have seen some baby carriages on the street. If you haven't, I encourage you to go look for them. They've got some San Francisco goodies in them, but our messaging is basically, because everyone's saying AI, it's hard to tell what that actually means. And a fun anecdote I got yesterday when working in the booth is a lady came up to me and she's like, AI, AI, AI. Does it mean I'm getting a tool that helps me confront attackers using AI, or does it mean that I'm getting an AI-based tool?
Or am I protecting my AI?
And I was like, that's a very good question.
It is.
The
Makes
fact
you
that
think.
the fact that you can't answer that from messaging is pretty indicative of all the noise that's out there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so the human in the loop, obviously, it's an important piece.
Exactly.
We've had some conversations of how ready organizations are to let things kind of take over for them. Is your decision to have a human in the loop based on the readiness of the market to accept a fully autonomous, or is it just the reality of human needs to be there because AI is not ready? Or is it both?
I think it's kind of both. I think we prioritize the role of the human because there have been several empirical cases of AI making a mistake, and compared to a human making a mistake, that's got way bigger consequences because AI is just so much more prolific. One error in judgment can echo 1,000-fold instead of just in one or two cases. So oversight is not only crucial, it's actually it's the only thing that'll protect your organization at the end of the day. And the goal isn't just to have a human, on the sidelines checking in. The goal is to make your analysts even better than they are so that a junior analyst is working at the level of a senior analyst, and that everybody is kind of leveling up with the addition of these tools rather than worrying about losing their jobs or not having one in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what can and cannot do for real, right? The AI, and I want to use the metaphor and the example of all the cars, the Waymo car we see out here.
All right.
It's a huge San Francisco perk, yeah.
Until last year, you will see still there was a guy next to it. And now they just go around, and maybe that's the expectation that people have about agentic AI. There will be one day that I can let it go. That's not today.
No, and I think, as a recent example, there was a power outage in San Francisco, and what happened was all the Waymos lost function, and there was a huge buildup. And still, that's when you need humans to step in and kind of, sort out the situation, make sure that, everything goes where it needs to be, because otherwise things grind to a halt, and if every car on the street decides to stop working, what do you do?
Right.
What does that look like for the city? So I don't think, the human will ever be able to completely let go and be uninvolved in the process.
So where are we right now with to what extent an agentic AI in cybersecurity can work on its own?
I think it has great potential to completely change the role of the analyst. So rather than chasing, manual alerts or dealing with this fatigue every day of encountering logs, analysts are instead incentivized to create new ways to approach problems. So it's really not just a matter of, the extent to which they're working, but rather just a complete mindset change of how the analyst approaches
on how
their
we
job.
work.
Exactly, yes.
So how do SOC teams, SOC managers look at this differently now? I'm thinking in terms of what success looks like, measuring success.
Totally.
Do they have to approach their program differently? Do they have to dismantle it and put it back together? How do teams say we're going to embark on an AI-enabled SOC? What's that look like? What does success look like?
I think the goal is not to, tear everything down, start all over again. That's hard, that's expensive, that's time consuming. The goal is to position your existing tools, I think, in everything you've got, especially if you have a lean security team where, every moment counts, every person counts. The goal is just to reposition yourself and make your tools work as efficiently as possible without changing everything from the bottom up. So I think success looks like minimal personnel change, but increased efficiency, increased accuracy, and more confidence in the way your team works.
And how does Stellar Cyber help the teams achieve that?
Exactly. Yeah. So we're great for a lean, efficient security team because you get increased visibility, you get full context enrichment. You get everything from detection to response without buying, a whole new portfolio of tools that you would need to train new analysts on, that you would need to hire new people for. The onboarding is extremely efficient, so we're able to adapt your team really, really quickly to a much more efficient way of operating. So it's a way to level up your security team without, taking a complete break, taking everything apart, which of course leaves you vulnerable in the meantime, right? The idea of rebuilding completely might seem really enticing, but what do you do in the meantime?
Right.
That turnover leaves you, with weeks of vulnerability. Yeah.
It's probably not even an option for small, medium businesses.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And as we, every week there are stories of, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what size operation you're running, you're vulnerable. There will be, threats and bad actors out there. Yeah.
So we've spoken with Subo and you guys and the team for a few years now, I think. You've been in the business of, this AI in the SOC way before it was cooler.
Exactly.
Way before you needed an AI password to get on the floor.
Yeah.
How's it been changing, for you, the product? How have you been adapting it to
any new innovations?
To the new environment? What kind of innovation steps have you been doing lately?
Yeah, we actually, so like you mentioned, we've been incorporating, machine learning into our technology since the very beginning. Also why we're calling ourselves mature, grown-up AI on the floor, because this is battle tested. And we've just added multiple layers, hence multi-layer AI. It's our trademarked brand term. But yeah, we're just adding new capabilities in terms of automatic triage, automatic phishing triage, just to further increase analyst efficiency and minimize mistakes, and our ability to give analysts a comprehensive and understandable case analysis from the very beginning has gotten much better at changing the way that analysts operate. So again, we're really trying to enable the human in the Human-Augmented Autonomous SOC and not just add more tools to their
It's
to their
an
tool belt.
AI that is human focused.
Exactly.
Love it.
What's some of the feedback from analysts that use the tool? What are they able to do now that they weren't able to do before?
I think they're able to cast off a lot of the busy work that made their jobs not only tedious, but also difficult in the past. So they're able to see an array of, say, 5 different alerts and know which one takes priority and how to respond to it, instead of having to evaluate every single one manually, individually, and taking that kind of time. Because at the end of the day, as attackers get more efficient, as there are more AI-enabled attackers, that becomes impossible, right? Evaluating manually or correlating by yourself across all these environments what takes priority eventually makes you less effective in dealing with the ones that matter. So the feedback that we've gotten is that the offloading of that burden from the analysts to instead having this AI agent that can do that case summary and analysis for them is a huge step forward.
Right.
It's again, a game changer for the way that they approach their job.
How about managed service security providers that are doing this across a large number? Because that's another big group that you serve and,
Yes.
and make them not only capable, but the ability to do that without breaking the bank, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you help them kind of cover many customers?
That's actually one of the biggest advantages that we have, because a lot of our managed security service providers have clients of all different sizes, right, across all different industries, and their needs are different and their team capabilities are different. So a solution that's able to provide visibility into their network, into their endpoints, into identity, all these different facets it's essential. A functioning SIM is no longer sufficient. It's no longer the best solution on the market. So any tool that's able to synthesize your visibility across all these different environments is perfect for a smaller team that doesn't have the budget or the capability to spend on hundreds and hundreds of security analysts, which that's kind of an unreasonable expectation for a lot of people.
Yeah, not sustainable either.
No.
So you said before that it's very easy to deploy, so you don't have to knock down whatever you have. And so give an example of, like, if somebody is watching us right now and it wants to start working with you guys, what's the process?
Yeah, so we offer hundreds of integrations. So if you have a functioning SIM and a good relationship with the provider, and it works, but you have recently become aware that identity threats are something you're very worried about, and you want extra coverage or you want additional visibility, we can integrate your existing SIM into the platform, so you don't have to compromise your existing relationships or the tool that you've grown attached to, but instead you can get additional functionality in these other threat
So
environments.
kind of plug and play?
Exactly. So we offer hundreds of integrations. We're building out more all the time. And if there's one that's really important to you that we don't have, we'll build it out for you.
Just ask to be in the back somewhere.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, it'll work out.
Yeah.
Can you, as we wrap, by the way, I want some Stellar Cyber sneakers. They're nice branded sneakers.
My
here.
special RSA sneakers.
Look
Yeah.
at that. A scenario or two, a use case or two of where customers achieve some outcome that they weren't able to do before and maybe didn't even expect.
Yeah. So we recently had a customer report that their analysts were 83% more accurate in their analysis of the threat environment, which is just like a massive, not only a massive outcome difference, but it's also just like a morale booster as well. People feel more effective at their jobs. It's something that's easily reported. Yeah.
So there's a number, which is good.
Yes.
And then there's the human element of it, which is
Yes.
they're not being like bashed for not knowing and not getting through as many alerts and whatnot.
Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters as an analyst is not all the alerts you do catch. It's it's the alerts you miss, right? So the sum total of your job is just all the mistakes you've made, which is a very difficult thing.
That's what gets highlighted,
to
sadly.
accept. Yeah. And people only know when you've messed up and missed something important, not all the attacks you've stopped. So
Right.
any increase in accuracy is a huge deal.
Cool.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I've learned something.
It's a stellar conversation.
Stellar conversation.
It's what we hope to deliver.
That's all your conversations are stellar. Look at that. On
a
a serious
stellar
note,
day, yeah.
it's a stellar day. And it is a good day to connect with Lisa and the stellar cyber team and try to connect with them on LinkedIn, on the website, and keep the human in the loop, but give them the tools and the intelligence and the information to be 83% more effective and accurate in tackling the alerts you get.
We've recently
other
redone
cool
our
stuff.
website, so hopefully you'll find it, exciting and
All right.
a new look. Yeah.
Look at that. All right, Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Thank
lovely.
you very
everybody.
much.